I am one of those melodramatic fools, neurotic to the touch, no doubt about it. Sometimes I give myself the creeps. Sometimes my mind plays tricks on me. It all keeps adding up. I think I'm cracking up. Am I just paranoid? Or am I dumb? Hello everybody and welcome back to Ghost Stories. Eric, get in frame.
I am in frame.
And this is the next episode and it's on YouTube as well. So if anybody who is listening on Spotify want to see any of the actual visuals or want to see our faces when we do this, go to the Ghost Glider at YouTube. Or go to YouTube and search up the Ghost Glider, and when you see Jerry, or the ghost who is on
Profile.
the thumbnail, you will that's my YouTube channel, and look for a YouTube video or by the same name of this, or you can go into podcasts and find Ghost Stories. All right, sorry about that. Don't worry, we will not go into depth. We're just going to be showing pictures and a few captions. However, everything will, if you want to only listen on Spotify, that is totally understandable. However, YouTube has a better experience. Of course, there are Spotify.
Because you get to see our beautiful faces.
Murder. We're back on the murder. We're going to be talking about one of the most popular? Yeah, one of the most popular
famous
murder cases out there that is still a mystery to the world.
Just like the Zodiac Killer one.
Yeah, just like the Zodiac Killer. This murder took place in a place in Virginia, and a whole family was
slaughtered
brutally. It was sad.
And actually, I'm not entirely sure if it was Virginia. It was actually in Iowa.
Oh, I thought it was Virginia. Sorry, my facts were wrong. We are talking about the Villisca Axe Murders. If you know absolutely nothing about this, where are you? This is a very famous thing with ghost hunts. So this is kind of like a two-parter with crimes and ghost things.
Yeah.
Paranormal activity. If people like Ghost Adventures, Sam and Colby, and Project Fear went here, and it's a very interesting place and a very sad at the same time. But without further ado, let's jump right into the podcast. All right, Eric, you are welcome to start.
All right.
Here's a paper.
Yeah, I write down my information because I don't have a phone. Yeah. So, the Villisca Axe murder case. This case occurred on the night of June 9th, 1912, in the town of Villisca, Iowa. The crime was committed at night on June 9th and was reported the next day by the victim's uncle.
The victims?
The children's uncle, I mean.
By a relative. You could have just said a relative. So before Eric goes into more depth, it was a family and family friends, and the husband's brother, also, or the kid's uncle, or the wife's brother-in-law, came to the house after multiple people was like, where are they? They're not at church. What's going on? And
he was the only one with a key to enter the house.
So he finally decided to go there, and he walked into a very, very big oopsie daisy.
The victims were the 6 family members of the Moore family and 2 neighboring girls, which they spent the night there, hence why they were there. And they were all hacked to death by an axe.
Yes, I'm going to hack you.
I hate you.
And now you're dead. If you couldn't hear that, I was typing on the keyboard, so yeah.
But the thing about this murder was that the family was liked by everyone. They had no enemies, so there was no point of them being killed.
Except a few.
Bruh. The evening of the fateful day, everyone in town attended church. Church ended at 9:30 p.m. It was said that while they were at church, the killer grabbed their axe from the backyard because it was in one of the logs because they had just cut down a tree for firewood. And the killer grabbed the axe from the backyard and broke in, and he hid in the attic. All the suspects lead to a man, so yeah.
Imagine it was a woman. Like
that's the crazy part. Everyone hints at it being a guy, but then imagine it's just a woman.
Imagine it was like one of the family members, and then they just.
Turns out it was the uncle.
It could be. Continue on.
When they got home at 9:45 to 10ish, they went to bed because it was
nighttime.
It was nighttime.
Sleepy time.
The killer waited until midnight to actually strike, so that he made sure that they were asleep. While the killer was waiting, it is known that he or she now smoked cigarettes. Because there were cigarettes buds practically all over the attic floor. Which, the house, it's 2 stories, and here's... Okay, this isn't really good. On the left is parents' bedroom. There's a small hallway, and then on the right is the children's bedroom. Halfway in the middle, there's a small, very small, 5-inch closet where they put their clothes. Behind the clothes, there was this door that led to the attic. So it's not like
So it was like a mini alcove.
Yeah, so it's not like they had to climb onto the roof to get in. No, it was just right by the bedrooms.
And then the neighbors was in the guest bedroom in the main floor, right?
Mm-hmm. On the main floor, right next to the kitchen. We'll come back to that later. So, which actually, there weren't, many cigarettes. It was just 2 cigarettes.
You didn't have to. It was just cigarettes. Cigarettes were found.
Okay, well, I wrote it on the paper, alright? I'm reading from the paper. At midnight, the parents were killed first. Several axe wounds to both. They obviously killed them. Something about the murder is that the axe wounds only went to the head to make sure that they died, to penetrate the skull. And within the parents' murder, the killer mainly went for the father because, he was the man, he's stronger, he could take him down. So he mainly went after him.
I'll talk more about that in a little bit.
Which, I didn't write this down, but I remember it now. The killer didn't use the, blade end of the axe. He only used, the butt end of it, I guess you could say. So that it didn't get lodged in their heads. So that it would be stuck.
For the parents, that is.
Yes, for the parents. Next were the Moore children. All victims axed in the head after killing the Moors. The killer went over and struck the parents more after killing the children. Yeah.
He killed the Moors, and then he went after the parent more.
Yeah, so he walked over to the children's bedrooms, which it was 3, 4... Yeah. Hold on. There was 2 parents, and then there was 3, young children, 5 to 7, and then there was a baby.
Baby.
Yeah, the poor baby. And so the killer killed them, and then he went back to the parents to make sure that they were dead and brutally killed them some more.
Not the mama. Not the mama, not the mama, not the mama.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Afterwards, the killer went after the guests, which, like Matthew said, were downstairs on the first floor. So he walked down there and went to the bedroom, and he killed them.
Well, duh.
Shut up. But out of everyone in the house, only one person was, well, technically 2 people. The killer was awake, and one of the guests were awake. Everyone else was asleep. So the killer killed the guest that was sleeping, but then the guest that was awake tried to defend herself, but ended up dying still. But there were defense marks on her, especially under the fingernails, but they didn't have, kits to run DNA back then. After killing everyone, the killer covered all mirrors with cloths or clothing or just blankets. Kind of weird. Afterwards, a 4-pound bag of bacon was found open and eaten. Yep. That's what I was talking about, coming back to the kitchen. Yeah, he went into the kitchen and had a little light snack.
Imagine, I'm just thinking about this guy's mindset. He was like, wow, just murdered a whole family and friends. I'm hungry. Bacon!
And it wasn't like it was cooked or anything. He just ate them raw.
No, I'm pretty sure he cooked them.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure he sat there. He was there for quite a few hours.
Yeah. And then after the murder, before fleeing, he cleaned himself up, obviously. Then he also tried his best to clean up the the mess he made within eating and whatnot. Get rid of that. After crime was reported, everyone in town entered the house. So after the murder, the next morning at 10 a.m., the neighbor was like, "Why aren't they up? They're usually out and about, going to work
really
and whatnot."
early.
Yeah, really early. And so they tried knocking on the door, being like, "Yo, are you there?" No answer. So she got in contact with the uncle and said, "Yo, uncle, the relative." And so she got into contact with him because I'm pretty sure it was a woman that was the neighbor, and she said, "Hey, something's off. Can you check it out?" And so he was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And so he walked up and he had the key. He opened the door and he walked into the murder. Well, the aftermath of the murder. And so, of course, they reported it. Back to the paper. After the crime was reported, everyone in town entered the house while the cops were arriving and trying to set everything up, which contaminated the entire scene, which also led to them not being able to find out who the killer was because everyone's prints were everywhere.
Prince doesn't mean anything.
Okay, well,
I like. He doesn't know. I don't know if you guys know this. I'm really big on crime and stuff like that. I don't commit it. But
I don't commit it.
I know a thing or two about forensics and the history of crime and crimes itself. If you guys know me and watch a few of my streams, I want to be a cop, or one of my dream jobs is being a cop. And crime, like forensics, like that, fingerprints, so on and so forth, didn't come into play until probably the 90s. I'm pretty sure it was. It was the 80s or 90s. This was done in the early 1900s. There's crime, all that crime was blood, body. I say it was a witch. That was how crimes were back then, and that's how police handled things. If there wasn't actual evidence that they can physically see who the person was or kind of pinpoint who it was, then they guessed their best. Most crimes dating back before the 50s are cold cases because
they don't know who it was.
People were idiots, and advancements in the crime departments and forensics and all that didn't come into play until 70s and 80s.
Only 2 people were looked into as suspects: Reverend George Kelly and...
He's struggling.
I am. My man says Andrew Sawyer written down. Sawyer was looked into but not charged. Kelly, on the other hand, was tried twice, leaving him to take the fall. But they did rule him out as just being criminally insane.
Alright, so now this is where This is where I come into play. So I have no idea who this Sawyer guy was. There were 3 suspects. Reverend George Kelly, which he has actually openly admitted to the crime.
And he was a priest.
He's Reverend, Eric. Jeez.
Okay. And...
you don't understand.
Okay, but
you don't understand.
But when he was saying, "Oh, I did it," his claim was that the devil took him over.
Then you have William Mansfield, who was the boss, right?
The boss of the father, I think.
Yeah. And Henry Lee Moore, which was a traveler of the area, and he was a suspected axe murder serial killer. All right, so first going on George Kelly, Reverend George Kelly. Reverend George Kelly was an odd guy. He definitely was interested in the little ones, if you know what I mean. He kind of got a liking to the kids and the 2 little girls. The only reason that the 2 little girls stayed over was because 1, it was getting really late, and 2, they were afraid that the Reverend was going to come and get them on their way home. So they got permission to stay at the Moore's house. So that has a lot of stuff against George Kelly. And after the crimes were committed, he was, he openly admitted, "Hey, it was me. The devil told me to do it." However, he was tried twice.
Trialed, not tried.
He was tried twice, and he was the one who took in the fall but was never charged for anything, and he was just charged for being criminally insane. He did end up leaving Iowa, and he was a traveling reverend who came in and out of the village, town, city, whatever this is.
Town.
And he would travel to different areas. So he was in town at that day, and he left, I'm pretty sure,
that morning.
And when he came back and heard about the crimes, he had to stay because he was arrested. But still, there wasn't too much evidence leading towards him, and also he was not a smoker. I'm pretty sure he was against smoking.
Yeah, because to be fair, he was a priest. So.
Doesn't mean anything. Then you have William Mansfield. He was the dad's boss, who absolutely hated the dad. The dad was okay at his job. He loved his job and so on and so forth. And he loved his coworkers. However, his boss was being an absolute douchebag, and he was being a bully to the dad. He was also a very, very, very heavy smoker. However, he was ruled out because he was said to be with his family the night of the murder. And then you have Henry Lee Moore. He was...
Moore? The family is the Moore. So that's the uncle then?
Yes. The uncle.
Not Traveler.
So the Sawyer guy, he was the...
Traveler.
Yes.
That I was
okay, so we have 4 suspects. Sorry about that, guys. Henry Lee Moore was the uncle who got along with his brother, loved the family. However, there was suspected that he was the killer because he is usually there really, really early in the morning to help with the family. And the fact that he had to be searched for in order to see if his family is okay kind of struck the officers to be as odd. And however, this was very much debunked because he had his own family matters besides his brother and his family.
And he was the only other person that had a key to the house.
He was the only one to have a key to the house. He was a smoker. However, if he was the murderer, why would he have to hide in the attic? And then the final guy was the Sawyer guy, Andrew Sawyer.
Mm-hmm.
He was a traveler across many states, and he was known as the train axe killer, or he was kind of suspected to be this train axe killer. What he would do is he would travel different cities and get there really, really late at night with the late train, and he would find an axe, go into a random house where this axe was found, and he would slaughter the family or whoever was living there.
And then just leave.
And then he would kind of like stay there for a few hours, live his life because he was also a hermit. And then he would catch the next train and do it all over again at his next location. So it was said that what he did was he picked up the axe while everybody was at church. He went in the closet, smoked some of the cigarettes that were in the house.
Closet was an attic.
Whatever. And then he waited for everybody to go to sleep. And then what he did was he went after the parents first because they were probably the strongest of the bunch, starting with the dad, and he used the blunt end to be quiet. And then once he got to the other family members, he still used the blunt end, actually. Except for the little girls, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. If anything, he only used the axe head part on the girl that was awake because she was defending herself, and it was just easier.
Now, here is a cool fun fact. For the parents, the murders were kind of pristine and kind of like perfected, and it wasn't as messy or crazy. Once he got to the kids' room, not the kids that were downstairs, the actual Moore kids, he went crazy. If you look at pictures or videos of the Villisca Axe Murder House, you can see that there's still splotches of blood on the wall, and there's axe marks on the wall.
Not only in the children's bedroom, but also by where the wife slept. There's axe marks at the roof because of how violently he was swinging down to kill them.
But it was specifically found in the children's room. Like the father's, he was perfectly murdered. He went a little bit more crazy with the wife because back then they weren't as strong. Again, that was back then. And then when it was kids are scared and crazy, so yeah. So that was the Villisca Axe Murders. I honestly think it was probably the Sawyer guy. That'd be the one that makes more sense. What about you, Eric?
Really quickly, I do want to add a little information. The thing about the entire case is that the house, there wasn't any like broken glass or anything to hint at like a break-in. It was more as if he just waltzed on in the room into the house as if he's been there before, which also hinted at it being the uncle, but he was then ruled out. So it wasn't an actual like, oh my god, I'm gonna break in. It was just like a waltz in.
Well, it also was. This was a very like protected area, not protected, but like nothing happened here. So they kind of left their doors and windows open all the time because they thought nothing was gonna happen. Little do they know.
Okay, John Marston.
That was not John Marston.
You were doing a cowboy's voice.
No, I was not.
Alright, whatever. I also think it was Sawyer because it makes the most sense. You know, Reverend Kelly was just an idiot and a psychopath. The boss, you know, he hated the father, but he wouldn't hate the children. He didn't even know them. Same thing with the mother. The uncle, he loved them. Why would he do it? And plus, he has his own family to care for. He doesn't have time to leave, which I believe they lived an hour away from each other just to go there to kill them, then go back. Makes no sense. So Sawyer really does make the only sense because he's a train-hopping serial killer, so...
He was supposedly.
Okay, he was supposedly a train-hopping serial killer, so I think it was him.
Now, about the paranormal activity, we're going to wrap this up real quickly. So, the house is very paranormal. There, you can hear the kids, you can hear the parents, and if you believe in paranormal, you can hear it all. There's even encounters of hearing footsteps, and I don't remember which ghost group it was. I'm pretty sure it was Sam and Colby, where they actually heard what sounded like the murder happening.
Yes.
So there's a suspected ghost paradox or paranormal paradox going on where it's nothing but this event happening on replay.
Yes, because they had this device that's called the music box playing. They took it to the attic, and they followed it, and it enacted the murder. It went from one location to the other, just like the story described it.
Yeah. And then...
with both Project Fear and Sam and Colby on a device called the Spirit Box, it would nonstop keep saying that Reverend Kelly was the killer.
Yeah, there's typically 3 names that they got, which was Henry Moore, which was the uncle, but that would be because they were probably asking for Henry. The next one was Reverend Kelly because some of them didn't know who actually killed him, so it could have been they thought it was Reverend Kelly.
No, I'm talking about the ghosts who kept saying Reverend Kelly.
Yeah, I know, but still. And then the other, I'm pretty sure it was the boss's name that was also.
No, it was the one of the girls' names were kept being played.
Yeah, duh. They said each other's names all the time, but there was 3 specific names that definitely kind of reached out to everybody. But with these ghost paranormal things, people believe that it was Reverend Kelly.
All because the spirits say it was.
I do not, but alas, we don't know. We will never know unless some magical thing happens.
Jesus comes down and says, yep, he did it.
But what do you guys think about this murder? The Axe Murders, to be precise. I do definitely want to go to the Villisca Axe Murder House eventually. That'd be a cool...
Especially to do a ghost hunt there.
Like, I want to do ghost hunts in the future. There's a few places I want to go, like the Clown Motel.
You better take me there one day.
I definitely want to go there and the Villisca. but yeah, there's a bunch of things that are very odd about this case, and that's definitely in the gray, and there's not really much that we know about.
Now, back to the paranormal. You said you want to go to Villisca and also... You just said it.
Clown Motel.
Clown Motel. Now, there's two other places I have to ask you. The Sally House. Would you go there?
I don't know.
And then the Conjuring House.
Oh, I would pee myself if I went to... Only if somebody invited me to the Conjuring House. If I, like, meet other YouTubers and we get kind of close and they ask me, hey, you want to go to the Conjuring House for a few hours or a day? I'd be like, yeah, sure, why not? I'm not staying there more than 24 hours, though. I'm not sleeping. I'm not going to book me going to the Conjuring House myself. I would pee myself. Okay, I'm a big tough man, but I will pee myself if I go to the
You're
Conjuring House.
You're a scaredy cat.
Like, I will stay at this Villisca Axe Murder House. I will stay at the Sally House. I will stay at the Clown Motel. But I will not, repeat, will not stay at the Conjuring House. Also, another place I want to go is Alcatraz.
I was just about to ask, would you want to go to Alcatraz?
Dude, I would go to Alcatraz in a full-on, I don't know, either
Warden
Tank
outfit.
Dempsey or fucking
Richtofen
outfit, or a criminal outfit. I would go there looking like that just to piss off these ghosts.
What about a prisoner uniform? Because that would really make them mad, because the cops were known to beat them up.
Imagine I'm an actual cop and I go there in a modern-day cop uniform. Dude.
W.
Dude. Anyways, how do you guys feel about this stuff? Let me know. If you're on YouTube, let me know in the comments. Are you excited for the next episode? If you are on YouTube, there are Spotify exclusives, so in the description is the link to the full podcast. For you podcast listeners, you guys are welcome to comment or let me know what you guys want to hear us talk to eventually. We're almost close to episode 10, which is the final announcement, which tells us whether or not we believe in aliens. I think you guys know this answer, but still, we will be talking about it, and we might have a special guest, our sister, Amy. Thank you guys again. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Like, subscribe, comment, share, post notifications on if you guys enjoyed, if you're on YouTube, and please follow or share if you're on Spotify. Thank you again. Peace out.
I'm going to tickle your toes.